Nonsense mugs all around. Meantime, let's bring in the media panel. Walkaway spokesperson Natalie Beisner and American Values PAC spokeswoman Caitlin Sinclair. Thank you both for coming on. Natalie, to you first. Former Democratic advisor Dan Turrentine said this. I think he gets it. Watch.
We're failing the common sense test. Rather than saying, hey, some of what they're finding, anybody in the right mind would say we should end it. Instead, we scream about everything. And so when we find stuff that, in our opinion, probably is worthy of a discussion, the average voter says, forget it. All you do is scream no, and they're crazy.
So what he's saying is this just crying wolf again and again. Everything Trump says, they say it's terrible. They're crying wolf. And then when there may be something they've got a point on, nobody believes them.
Yeah, it would be a much better look for the Democrats to actually admit that maybe there is some bloat to cut. Maybe there is some waste to cut. What J.D. Vance was saying today, that we were paying for Afghani women to have modern art lessons in toilets. You know, I think that Democrats should be able to admit maybe we don't actually need that. It would be much more sensible for the Democrats to just be honest about this, especially because they say they're for the middle class and the working class. Come on.
Yeah, be honest. Yeah, just tell it like it is. Meantime, she mentioned J.D. Vance, Caitlin Vance. He took a swipe at CNN today. He was at CPAC. He took a swipe and he made this point. Watch.
We've had maybe more executive orders than CNN has viewers each night. So hello to our friends at CNN. I actually think that their plan was they were going to go all in on anti-Trump and hope that he could save CNN in the same way that he did, frankly, in 2017, because nobody really watched the network until he became president in 2017.
I mean, Caitlin, it's kind of like Natalie and I were talking. It's the cry wolf version in the media where everything is bad. And then, you know, credibility just kind of drips away.
That's exactly it, Trace. J.D. Vance coming in with that mic drop. That was iconic. And really, he wasn't just trolling CNN. He was actually laying out why the CNN business model has completely failed. And here's how I look at it. You look back at 2016. Trump was in office, and CNN became this airport-watching channel to the Trump-hating network. Then in 2021, he left office, and so did CNN's entire audience. And now here we are, Trace, and it's like CNN is showing up on the doorstep of their ex-boyfriend trying to relive the glory days. But here's the difference. The American people aren't falling for it anymore. They voted for accountability. They voted for credibility. They voted to drain the swamp. And they voted for the mainstream media to actually tell them the truth. So they're not falling for it anymore. I'm not sure how CNN's audience is going to rate compared to Donald Trump's pen. So that should be interesting.
Well, speaking of CNN, former CNN pundit Chris Cillizza said this on News Nation about the media, his opinion. Watch.
They just have a blind spot with Trump. No idea he proposes can be even a good idea. Again, if it was proposed by James P. Public, Republican president, they'd be like, okay, well, maybe. But because it is him and because the loathing is so, and it is, I use that word advisedly, but they hate him.
And what happens is, because their coverage is based on emotion, Natalie, it comes across as being emotional instead of well thought out.
Yeah, they absolutely have a blind spot when it comes to Trump, or he wouldn't be back in office after they assured us that he would never be. And I think they've kind of painted themselves into a corner, because if he is a fascistic dictator, you should be against everything he says and does.
Right.
And if you're kind of friendly to him sometimes and you have an honest assessment when he does good things, well, then maybe he's not a fascistic dictator like you've been telling us for 10 years. I think the American people are just tired of it. Jon Stewart was saying it. We've cried wolf. He said the media had cried wolf for the past 10 years, and we've used up all our fascist bullets. So yeah, everyone can see it.
Yeah, and then you have people like Morning Joe who went down to Mar-a-Lago and they had breakfast and they said, oh, they laughed and all that. And then you're like, oh, and he's Hitler. He's Hitler back on the set, but you're in Mar-a-Lago having breakfast. Meantime, Tommy Vietor on the Pod Save America podcast, he said this about the effect he think it's all having. Watch.
Trump is using sports in a really smart way politically. I think he went to college football games and UFC fights during the campaign. He went to the Super Bowl. He did a loop around the track of the Daytona 500 in his limo over the weekend. It feels like he's creating a bond with these audiences that Democrats don't have.
And creating a bond with young people, Caitlin, because the young people are gravitating toward him.
Absolutely. We are seeing such a large cultural shift right now, Trace. And President Donald Trump is sitting perfectly at that intersection of politics, of pop culture, of sports, of entertainment. And these young people, my generation, the millennials, the generation coming up behind me, the Gen Zers, they are no longer apathetic anymore. Yeah. There's momentum there. They are excited and they are engaged. And guess what? This was a mandate from them and from the American people to do exactly what Donald Trump and the disruptors are doing, and they are here for it.
Yeah. Caitlin, Natalie, thank you both. Coming up, significant breaking news in the Middle East. New reports by the IDF say one of the bodies returned by Hamas was not that of Sherry Bibas, the mother of 2 young hostages who were